Alrighty, back again. Back from intermission. I'm in the middle of a hike, so I didn't have a chance to pee, but I'll keep going. I'm tough. And if you didn't see the first video, none of that will make sense. Anyway, so tribalism part 2. Now at this point, I am not going to backtrack and say no, here's what's wrong with tribalism. Instead, what I want to look at is how it not so much how it can go wrong, because I think I think that when it goes wrong, more often than not, it's because there's someone in the mix, or people in the mix that have actually wanted it to go wrong. I mean, I think maybe it can, but again, I think that there are factors at work, and the instincts we have of wanting to be special, unique, and wanting to belong to something. Those two facets are either being seen as a barrier to someone's other end, or they are being utilized as a tool to manipulate us. And I think, again, I see that happening in our world, at the moment, in a whole bunch of different ways. And so I'm just gonna explore, or let's just think about some of those things, and that we see. Some stuff I may just touch on, because I think there's a couple of thoughts that may warrant a video of their own, because they're sort of bigger topics. Now, I think, and actually the first of those is, if you take the idea of someone, who wants to, control a group of people, let's just take your archetypal megalomaniac, whoever that is, whether it's, I don't know, whether it's Hitler, or whether it's a political party, communism, or fascism, or what have you, or maybe you'd say one of the parties that's around at the moment in your country, whether it's Democrats or Republicans or what have you. So you have some person or group of people that want to control a larger group of people, to achieve whatever their end is. And in some ways, the tribalism can be a detriment to that, because our sense of again, as I said before, out of our sense of uniqueness, there comes a push for freedom, autonomy, creativity, to think for ourselves. And for someone who wants to herd a whole bunch of sheep, well, they don't want a whole bunch of sheep that actually think for themselves. And so that's one of the things that you see, is in order to dumb that down, you see a thing, what you will see, or what you do see, is efforts to try to break down that sense of uniqueness, and thinking for yourself. No, you have to just go along with the crowd. If you step out of line, we're going to smash you. No, don't think for yourself. You're too dumb. Let us think for you. because you don't know, you don't understand. If you make your own decisions, they're going to be bad decisions, and you're just going to hurt yourself and everyone around you. So I don't know, whether anyone's seen anything like that, at work in your own life in the last few years. Probably not, but anyway, just in case, maybe you have. So that is kind of step one, is eroding that that sense of uniqueness and autonomy, and encouraging people, whether with a carrot or the stick or both, to hand over themselves to the to the wider whole, and ideally without without thinking about it, without understanding, just with kind of blind loyalty. So that is, I think that is step one, and then I think the sense of belonging is then sort of, as the autonomy and uniqueness is eroded, because it's sort of like a continuum. I think that causes us to automatically swing, more towards that need for belonging and being part of a wider group, to compensate for that, the lack in those other areas. And so we're kind of pushed towards a greater degree of belonging, and where that turns negative, it's sort of that is it's groupthink or group lack of think. It is just bury yourself in the mass, just run with the herd, don't think about where we're going, because otherwise you'll get left behind. It's a scary world out there, and you don't want to be left behind, because either you're going to be left out on your own, or the group will turn on you and destroy you. And so that's the ugly side of the tribe comes to bear, and it is used as a threat, as a so instead of it being contribution and responsibility, instead it is a fear-based, control-based operation of the group. And again, I don't know if you've seen anything like that at work in your in your own life in the in the last little while. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But again, I think the reason for that is so that the more and more people become a dumb, fearful group, we are then we are like sheep, and that's why that's a term that is often used for sort of masses of people, because sheep can be herded, sheep can just be directed, moved, the way you want to where you want, pretty much without any question, and for whoever's in charge, well, that's what they want. They want people to be controlled, so they can be used to serve whatever end it is that that leader or that group has in mind. And I was thinking about that in terms of sort of American politics, and I'm not going to kind of get into the weeds of specifics, but I look back on the founders, and I see the wisdom that they had in when it was set up, there was a great deal of autonomy given to the states, and I think that was so smart, because I see it even operating somewhat now, is states can have their own ideas, their own ways of doing things, their own priorities, and you saw that during the COVID pandemic somewhat. States took very, very different approaches to how they dealt with the pandemic, and got very different results. And then the nice thing about that is then it gives people the opportunity to vote with their feet. If you really love the way California does stuff, well, then you can move to California and become a Californian, because if that's who you are on the inside, then you have the opportunity to move there and do things the way that they do things. Whereas if you look at Florida, or you look at Texas, and you go, man, I think those people have really got they've really got their stuff together. I love the way they do stuff. Well, then, then people have the opportunity to move to the States. Move to the, where you were born might not be who you are. Maybe you were born in California, but maybe you're actually a Texan. And there are a lot of people who are, I've seen bumper stickers. It's like, I was born a Texan. It just took me a few years to get here. And so you can, I think that is the real, power and beauty of that, that federalism, federalism. I don't know if that's the right, or statism. I don't know. There's probably a word for it, and I'm not sure what it is, but that of a federation, I guess, that that the United States is a collection of states that are united. There are some common values, but within those common values there is supposed to be a great diversity, even though I don't like that word because it's become so corrupted, but there is a diversity of of opinion and of ways of doing things. And I think where in the US, where we're having problems now is, I think, where the federal government is trying to take too much control, trying to pull power that was reserved to the states, and enforce their will over the nation as a whole. And again, I believe the founders didn't want that to be the case. I think their understanding was, the primary roles of the federal government were to provide a mechanism to deal with other nations, and to provide an army that would defend the nation as a whole, and in rare cases where it's necessary to adjudicate in sort of differences between the states where things go wrong. But that's about I believe that's about all it was meant to do, and yet I think the federal government has grown more and more and more, and pulled more and more power into itself, and the strife and chaos that is happening in this country at the moment, I believe is in great part because of that. And so what you see is some of those mechanisms that I saw, that I mentioned, are they're happening here, where kind of, I believe at the federal level that, or in order to enforce, a greater degree of federalism, maybe that's the right use of the word, the populace is being dumbed down and inculcated with, with fear, in order to make them more, less autonomous, more pliable, with a view to, creating a higher level of control and homogeneity. But again, as if you look at history, it doesn't work. It really doesn't work. People will, states will, look at Europe. People have their identity, and they don't want that identity taken away. Now, the interesting thing is, again, if you think back on what I just said about, the purpose of the, the federal government, is to, defend our nation. And so, this is one of the sort of pernicious things, and I think you see it. We've seen it a bunch of times over over decades, where a unifying force for the United States and for any group of states, like even parts of Europe, is self-defense and is a war. We need to rise up and protect ourselves. But again, what I see is that instead of it being a healthy thing, where as need arises, we are willing to coalesce into a larger and larger group to achieve a greater end. But that's only for a certain period of time and for a certain purpose, and then we kind of want to go our separate ways. And even within that, I think about the military. You have the different branches of the military within, even like the army. You have different, groups that have very strong identities. Even within the military, there is a great deal of kind of, I would call it healthy tribalism, healthy sort of competition and identity that I think actually makes the whole thing work better together. I think the rivalry between like Army and Marines and Air Force, I think that's not a negative thing. I think that degree of Navy, didn't mean to forget you, but I think it actually helps people rise up. But the really pernicious thing is where war is used, and I think we're seeing that at the moment. They try to use war as this sort of fake unifying factor to unify, again, I think under false pretenses, to achieve certain aims. And I think to some extent we're seeing that, here in the States with things like the war in Ukraine, and I think to some extent the war on terror was used for that. So that is, so that's stuff. So, what am I trying to say with that? That is stuff that we really need to be aware of and on the lookout for and understand. So if we understand the appropriate function and operation of, the tribalism in us and those two competing needs and desires, then we can be more aware of, the potential weaknesses and how, those needs that we have can be distorted and manipulated by other people to send us down roads that we don't want to go down. And so I think I just want to leave it with that, again, I've heard, some places in the news where, tribalism, terrible thing. I don't think it is, for the reasons I've stated. Let's just be wary of of anyone that says we just have to become part of the amorphous mass. Beware of anyone that says no, don't think for yourself, just follow along with the rest of us, because you just think to yourself, hang on, I think they're trying to turn me into a sheep, and that's never a good thing. That is never a good thing. You want to be an alert, aware member of a tribe that you have chosen to be a part of, whilst maintaining your sense of identity and autonomy, because in a healthy tribe, that differentiation, that creativity, that identity, actually adds to the value and the strength of the whole. It does not detract from it. Anyway, I'm just about at the end of my hike, and thank you so much for listening. It's so good to be back. I got to say that. Good to be back on the trails. Good to be walking. Good to be talking. Good to be thinking. And if you appreciate this, please like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next one.